So hello, I'm going to be sharing my screen with you. And we are continuing with the study of the book Alert by Joanna de Angelis. And today our lesson is lesson 52 that Joanna de Angelis is going to talk to us about how should we behave before the world and before Jesus. It's a beautiful lesson, and I hope you're going to enjoy and benefit from it. Let me just try to open here also the chat in case sometimes it doesn't show here, sorry. Okay, let's go. The world asks Jesus for help. He answers, but he waits for us. The world represents the wide range of those in need of bread. Jesus, while not forgetting them, also helps those in need of light. The world begs for peace in the throes of violence in which it is struggling. Jesus transmits tranquility, however, he urges us all to help one another in fraternity. So I just move it so that we could complete the idea. Here we are before two positions. The position of our material needs, cravings, and the position of the needs of the soul. Obviously, for us, is still in the level of involvement that we are living, it is kind of hard for us to understand how important, how pivotal it is the need for us to nourish our souls, to help our souls to evolve. Actually, in the prayer group this morning, Phil read a very beautiful message from the gospel. And maybe, Phil, if you remember a little bit of it, at least the start of it, we could, at least the first lines, it's very, very impressive if you have it at hand. But here, what we see is we claiming for help, mostly to benefit our material needs. But Joanna de Angelis is trying to remind us here that we are much more than the material life, and that our needs are much greater than just the needs that we have to sustain our physical life. So I think it's particularly beautiful when she mentions here the understanding that we have for the need of bread, meaning the nourishment, and how Jesus is also going to help us in our struggles to succeed in our material life in terms of our basic needs, at least. But she mentions that Jesus goes a step further than that we are actually requiring, which is to help us also to achieve light, to help those who have been affected, disturbed by all the difficulties that hurts our spirit, that do not allow us to be emotionally stable sometimes. And if all of that is related to the need of our spirit. And then also when we plea for peace. And we're not talking about just the peace in the world. We are talking about the inner peace. We are talking about peace in our home. We are talking about peace in our place of work. We are talking about peace in a general way, because in all of those ambiences, we can be suffering the disturbance that is related to any kind of violence that can be present. And then she says that regardless of, all the tranquility that Jesus is going to try to bestow us. And when we say Jesus here, of course, we are talking about Jesus as being the governor of our world, the one that is responsible for everything that is happening here for us. And that is going to be a sign as well, the messengers of God that will be taking care of this or this area where we need this kind of assistance. So, but at the same time that like a father figure will come to us and say, listen, I can help you, in this situation, but there is something that you can do to not put yourselves in the situation anymore, to prevent getting into the same kind of, occurrences that are happening to you right now. And this is what he presents here, and Joanna de Angelis mentioned here, which is fraternity. So while we are thinking about global peace, there is no way we can achieve that unless we establish for ourselves once and for all that we are all brothers and sisters, and that we are all here to evolve, and that we are all here living different experiences. And with that, and each time more being conscious of that, we will be able to extend and to, understand and live in fraternity. Did you find it, Philip, the message? You are mute. Okay. You're still mute, I guess.
I found it. And would you like me to read it?
I think just the first part where she, I'll let you know when. Okay. Go ahead.
Whenever I consider how short life is, I am grievously impressed by your insistent preoccupation with your material welfare, whereas you attach so much importance and devote so little time to your moral improvement.
Yeah, I guess this is it. Okay. I mean, when you start reading, although we read the gospel so many times, and I said, oh my God, I don't think I have paid that much attention to this message before. The way the Spirit is really adamant in showing us, listen, I'm flabbergasted, because, how can you do that? Don't we have enough, how do I say, experience in this field in terms of, comings and goings and etc., in terms of, facing death, especially now in a pandemic, and how sudden it all can happen. And it's still our behavior is the behavior that we are going to be here forever. Right? Any comments we would like to give in this part that also that Philip read?
I might find that while we are aware of all these things, we are drawn to the immediate, and we forget about everything else when we're dealing with the immediate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a wonderful way of putting it. Not a wonderful way of behaving for us, right? But that's what we still do. Mm-hmm. Anyone else would like to make any comment?
You said
yes.
Yeah. what she's trying to tell us is it that we live more in a material world instead of living a spiritual world. We're so absorbed in our surroundings and uh, what we have, what we don't have, what we need to get. This is so constant in this world. It's so difficult to separate, and when you live a life of uh, not understanding the spiritual side that we should be living, and we live more material world, it's now much more difficult for us to change our ways. But we are doing it because of Joanna de Angelis, Spiritism, and everything else that has given us the light to see, to change, to understand, to live a life of loving our neighbor and helping. And there's so much to do opposed to worrying about, oh, I'm going to get a car, I want to buy a beautiful home. That's all. It's okay, but first let's live a spiritual life and do what our Father has been teaching us for over 2,000 years.
Yes. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, before the pandemic came along, I lived an entirely different type of life. I was caught up in Tai Chi and bonsai, things like that. And then after the pandemic came, I discovered a new way to live. So now every morning I start reading one of Leon Denis's books. Right now I'm reading The Big Enigma. And it's, all of his books, the first one I read, I thought, man, this is fantastic. He's such a poet. And now I'm in The Big Enigma, and he's still very poetic, but the truth just leaps out at me. And it just sets my whole day. It's wonderful. If anybody might want to try that, if you have time.
Yes, I think it doesn't occur just with you, Marlene, because even for us, like I said, just mention now, even when I heard this message today, even if we read those things before, they still make so much an impact in us. And every new book that we will be reading, or our old messages, or the way we can expand, or sometimes it's just even when we collect ourselves and start meditating about one of those teachings, it is the same thing, because we will get some insights and say, oh my God, this is so logical. How could I have not seen that before? And it's a whole new world. That's why sometimes I joke, Marlene, I say that before I understood spiritism, and in my case, I got to know it very, very early in life. And of course, then I was too young to understand really things. It came later in life. I would say that I would see the world in black and white, and now I see the world in colors. I know that there are more colors waiting for me, the gamma rays, the ultraviolet, that I still can see with my material eyes. But this is what I am aiming for, because I know that it's going to expand so much more. And so this awe that you say you got, you felt when presented to all of this new concept, I think they never stop. I don't know, anyone would like to say something? How is your experience, Zoraida, Phil, Sonia? Is it just me, or you still feel the same way as I'm describing right now?
No, I've changed a whole lot. Not to the no way, no how being perfect, but Every time we read, like she said, a great enigma, all these beautiful books that enlighten us, and we look at it and we listen and we pray and we say, "Oh my God, right? Oh, okay, I'm gonna work harder." And then, here we go again. Okay, now, wait a minute. What did you do today? That wasn't nice. No, no, no. Who's the one who says to look at ourselves every night and see the good or the bad that we've done?
St. Augustine.
Augustine, absolutely. And that's what I try to do every day. But yet I fall back, you know, 5 steps forward and 3 back. It's a constant work. It's diligent, and you have to be aware of what you're doing with everyone else. It's work, 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 work. It doesn't stop. Not for 1 minute, not for 1 day.
Yeah.
I
Anyone
see
else?
it. I
Go
see
ahead.
it as a constant response to what's happening around us. And when something happens, we respond. And that takes up our full vision. Every so often, we take a moment to relax and realize that there are more important things for us to focus on. But the minute something hits us, we respond to it.
Right.
And that's what constantly takes us back to that activity.
Okay, so let's go ahead. The world begs for support in order to free itself from the constraints of hatred and madness. Jesus, however, is a liberating resource who proposes fraternal patience and solidarity work amongst all creatures. The world promotes despair and babbling. Jesus gives silence and faith. So continuing the same line as in terms of, the needs that we are presenting, she keeps on demonstrating how much really we are receiving all that. We are receiving the answers, but we are not incorporating them. We are not paying attention to them. So the resources are here. The teachings that we have received, the enlightenment that we have been receiving throughout times, it's there forever. But we still, like you said, we feel we are looking much more from the immediate responses and needs that we have in terms of life. So and I think the most important thing here, the reason why Joanna de Angelis is actually using even Jesus here, is because she's trying to say, listen, we are not talking here just about the theory, everything that was written and taught regarding the teachings of Jesus, but we are talking about Jesus, the man who actually in practice lived everything that we need to start incorporating in our lives nowadays. So she's going here in a direction of showing, listen, it's not just words. Those are things that you can achieve. Remember Jesus saying, you can do what I do and much more. Which is very intriguing, right? But we're not going to get there today. So even Jesus has, room for improvement or expanding even more its knowledge, right? His knowledge. But yeah, it's
Yes, Sarah.
yes.
And I just came in and I'm listening to what's going on, and speaking about Jesus and whatnot, it seems like it all comes down to them. It all comes down to forgiveness and whatnot. And I'm asking myself, what about justice? That this is where I'm at, seeking justice, not only as we humans incarnated spirits. I don't like to use the word humans. Are doing in this life, seeking justice for the evil, the bad. Why wasn't Jesus have any justice? Well, he did, I guess, in the Old Testament, but then he changed. He changed. But I question this word forgiveness. It seems to dominate the justice that which you seek.
Yeah, one thing that is important for us to put here is, not even Jesus, okay? When we are talking about those major things, we are talking about the Creator. We are talking about God. And it's interesting how you place justice, Orlando, because from the Spiritist perspective, our major complaints are related exactly because of justice. I complain that I'm suffering in life and I have a problem with my liver, let's say, for instance, and say, why it has to be like this? I'm a person that do not even drink or have a very healthy way of living and all of those things that could contribute to my health. And why do I have to have, a liver problem? And then we complain. We ask, we disagree with God. And it is exactly because of justice that I'm suffering this problem right now. Because not only, in the past incarnation, but many previous incarnations, I perhaps have abused it so much from this area of my body. So the very thing that you are requiring now, you're saying, what is the justice? Is what the majority of people complain, because we are suffering the results of the justice of God, as long as we understand that we have lived other lives. If you just think that you are blank page when you're born and you die and that's it, then I admit that it may be very difficult for people to come to terms with that. But when, in our case, spiritists and other spiritualists that, I don't remember quite well the number, but I do believe that a very big percentage of people in the world do believe or say that they do believe in reincarnation. I think in this country it's about 60%. Okay, immortality of the soul, 90%. But reincarnation, I think it's something about 60%. I'm not so sure, okay? But it's a big number already. So if we know that what you sow is what you reap, why are we going to be complaining about justice right now? We are suffering the result of our free will and justice of that is let's say, is imposed by our own conscience. It's not even God that is coming there and saying, no, you have to, to face all that. No, it's justice. It's us going against the law. So that's what we have to think about.
I'm going to be quiet after this, but I just want to say, this is what I admire of you, your open mind. And but I just want to say that I hold the spirit world, especially reincarnation, responsible, and I'm trying to build a case, not only for myself but other people, to bring a case against the reincarnation. But you do understand, and I love your open mind.
Don't count me in there, okay? I want to reincarnate many times. I'm not ready to just disappear from the face of the universe. I really want to live forever. There is so much I want to do and to learn and to visit other worlds, and especially better worlds than ours, and being able to fly and read minds and all those things that a more evolved spirit is capable of doing. So let us continue here. Compare the uncertainties in the world and the security with Jesus. Consider the impositions from outside present in the world and the inner strengths that are found in Jesus. Live in the world, yet never apart from Jesus. Again, here we're not talking about the man. Okay, we are talking about the examples of living that Jesus showed to us during his time on earth and the teachings. So not living apart from Jesus doesn't mean that if I belong to a religion that do not even consider Jesus, I'm not saved or whatever. No, it means living with the moral of a more evolved spirit that respected everyone, all the religions, that help, especially like he used to say, the sinners. This is the vocabulary that they used at this time, because they wanted Jesus to be among the important ones, and he said, no, I didn't come for them, I came for the you and the sinners, the ones that need. So he was all the time exercising or presenting to us the examples of love, of fraternity, of collaboration, of union, of fraternity, right? So this is what it means here. Live in the world, but never apart from the high values of eternal life, moral values here. Because we have been seeing what the world offers, the lack of moral sometimes, the lack of, of respect, because if you do not belong to a country, to a race, to a nationality, to a gender, to a profession, whatever, you may not be that respected. And in the case when we look at someone like Jesus would stop everything just to help the need. Let's see the example of the adulterous woman. At no point they said she was not adulterous. Okay, that was not in discussion at the time. Of course, she was not living, or especially that particular experience was a good one. But what Jesus did, he was there, and he was there helping us and defending us and reminding us the importance of for forgiveness, because we ourselves cannot cast the first stone. And those that were there casting the stones were, some of them, even Pharisees, considered to be the enlightened ones in their time. And instead of siding with them, Jesus sided with the needed one, showing us that, not necessarily what the world is doing is the best way of doing things. The teaching, giving examples is always going to be the best way. So it continues saying your physical life, even if it lasts dozens of years, will cease at some point. However, your spiritual reality with Jesus will never end. The world leads you to conquests, but Jesus, when he conquers, makes the individuals triumph over themselves from within. The external victories fade and pass away. The inner ones grow stronger and stay. Let's look around here in the world, and even the conquest that so many so-called important figures in our history were able to accomplish. All of that past, they died. And but what is the core? And the core means what is related and pertain to the immortal spirit. This is not going to pass. And it's up to us to use our potential and live the life of spirit even while incarnate, because it's going to bring much more peace of mind to us. It's going to help us in dealing with all of those things, especially, the difficulties we still have of being citizens of a world that is just going to a transition period, but it still lives on a world of trials and atonements. Questions, comments?
I think having compassion is very, very important. Jesus certainly had great compassion for the adulterous woman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Marlene. And I think somehow we can relate to that when we constantly say, if we see a child or even someone that is impaired doing something that we know is not, the best way of doing that thing, or even is the wrong way of doing something, we have much more compassion and understanding, right? Because we know that they still are not capable of reason, and they still do not have the necessary experience and understanding to deal with a particular way, in the way that an adult is going to react or act. So in the case of Jesus, it was the same thing. I mean, he could not lose his head on us. We were like almost like babies, crawling babies, in relation to the grandeur of Jesus, 3 times PhD of the universe, right? And that's the reason why when we really meet people, spirits that are a bit more evolved, those are the ones that we will see that have more that perhaps we could say, oh my God, I don't know how they know so much, they understand so much, they have such a intelligence, intellectual achievement. How can they be so patient with this person that it basically doesn't know anything? It is exactly because of that, because we cannot expect certain responses from children. And this is how Jesus would see us. And in the same way that sometimes we even think that some silly things that children do, it's so cute and so loving, and we go there and we embrace them. The little ways that they mispronounce a word, and all of that, Jesus would look at us with the same tenderness. And it still does, right? Because we haven't grown that much since. Maybe now we are already walking, no longer crawling, but we still have a long way to go. Okay, let's go to the next one. Learn from the light. After realizing your circumnavigation in the universe and contouring our hypersphere, return to the generating source, your starting point. I'm going to stop here because, to translate what we have here. So Joanna de Angelis say, okay, go to the world, the many worlds, the many experiences that you will have, but very much like the prodigal son, we will return to the source. We will return to the basis of the love that have created us. So this is what she's trying to say here. No one, even if they wish it, will ever flee from its divine source. So in a way, when we think, very much like teenagers, like we getting our independence, the more we grow, the more we learn, the more we understand, the more we will see that actually every step we take is leading us closer to our divine source. And it's very much like Zoraida said a few minutes ago, you know, 5 ahead, 3 backs is still, the upside is 2 ahead, right? And so therefore, enjoy today. In the duel between the world and Jesus, your choice will be that of permanent anguish or of promising bliss. So again, you have your free will. You have these 2 paths before you. One that is going to be, you're going to be prolonging the negative experiences. And another one that will get you each time closer to, you know, joy, to bliss, to peace, harmony. And it's our choice. Here, it's up to us to believe it or not, and to choose what we are going to do. Okay. Any comment? Yes, Sonia.
Because this whole chapter always mention about the future, that Jesus is a hope in our life, is a better life after, to prolong our spiritual life in the good way. Then what I think, because why we need to change, it's not about promise future life or good spiritual life, but to feel in this material life, because we always, as Philip said, mention, we hope for quickly response. Mm-hmm. But, and we are fast in our answer too. Many times we fail, okay? But what I mean, that try to put my feeling in this thoughts, it's when you start to changing in action, in fraternity way, in try to practice Jesus' lessons, and try to live this light in your life, you can feel the answers and response and the bliss in this material life. You can feel every time when you help someone, we feel good. It's not something we do, we are able to make, because it's happened naturally. It's some kind of energy to come back to us. It's not something you demand. It's able to build, to set up, because this kind of energy, it's far from us. Mm-hmm. We cannot drive this. We can action and feel the reaction, the universe reaction to us.
And one thing that is very important that you said, Sonia, is not just about the promising of a future bliss. The bliss is now, you know. Sometimes, you know, we go through things in life, and it's not uncommon for me to think about it, or for other things to mention that I don't know how I would deal with that if it was not, you know, with the knowledge and understanding that I have. I would be in total despair or something like that. So we can see that the result of this kind of knowledge and understanding, and internalize them and actually put them in practice in our day-to-day lives, we have a result for today. What before I would be screaming at, perhaps now I'll say, it's not worth, it's going to go away. Yeah, true. Tomorrow is going to be a better day. Or so, because you see, if we, this is, I think, it one of the things that we have so many problems with people that follow certain religions, because the promising for a future bliss is not attractive. Remember that sometimes I give the example. If you go to a child and say, do you want 1 chocolate now or 12 tomorrow? What do you think the child is going to say? I don't know. If you say, this child is going to say 12 tomorrow, I want to meet this child, okay? Probably is a missionary already. It's a very smart one. But you see, I want the satisfaction, I want the result now. And so I think that many of the frustrations and lack of engagement, it's because we still have this discourse of, you know, for the future bliss, for the kingdom of heaven, and it doesn't stick anymore. But then, you know, when you follow certain guidelines, not only from Spiritism, but other philosophies, spiritualist philosophies or not, and you really go with that, you will find the resources that you need to cope with what you have to do today. And I think this is really important for us to keep in mind. It's going to be better in the future, absolutely, but you're still going to be seeing the results today. Yes, Sonia?
And if you will start to do things because we would like the response to have a better life, I think it's wrong way. Mm-hmm. Because you need to do things with your heart, the naturally action, and not to mm-hmm. wish, oh, if I do something good, I need to do this because I need my life better. Mm-hmm. I think it's not like things. It's not the way we need to work, to put our energy in.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily, but the majority of us still need a carrot. Let's stick with the carrot in front of our eyes, right? To motivate us to move ahead. So these small gratifications, the thing is, pay attention, because we are receiving the gratifications now. Okay, so you'll say, oh, I still have not won the lotto. No, we're not talking about it, but you're already sleeping better. You already have a little more peace of mind. You already have perhaps a little bit more patience with your family members than you had before. You still do not worry that much about things that you cannot change. And so, but the carrot here it's good to say, oh, okay, but maybe God is paying attention, and every now and then I will feel a pat in the shoulder, and this is going to help me to go ahead even more. Thank you, Orlando. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Faced with a coin bearing the effigy of Caesar, Jesus, in response to the malicious and venal placement of the gratuitous adversary, defined the situation of the contribution that each one must make. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. God is the life, and Jesus is the only way to reach him. Again, Jesus here doesn't mean you have to be a Christian. Doesn't mean you even have to believe in Jesus, but in following the examples that this man once on earth left to us, because it was all about the examples much more than the preaching. And so that's why when we say Jesus is the way to truth and life, it's exactly like, you know, a roadmap. Jesus is a roadmap. Okay, you want to use think in a more abstract way. Okay, but use the roadmap that Jesus proposed to his life, and this is what we are talking about here. So let's give the right value to the things that we need to fulfill our stage on earth, but let us think about, you know, being prevalent in terms of my permanent stay, or much more permanent stay as an immortal spirit in the spiritual realm. Any other comments? Or I think for today, this is what we have today. Any comments or questions? All right, so